Welcome to this video on estimation methods for project management. The information for this video comes from Pearson's Project Management in Practice and Kloppenborg's Contemporary Project Management. Estimation methods will be covered in two parts. The first video is on what needs to be estimated and the estimation sequence, and in part two I'll cover the common estimation methods. First, what is being estimated? So often we'll use the work packages from a work breakdown structure in order to do our estimating. We need to figure out what resources are required, how long these resources will be needed for, as in the time or duration, and the cost of these resources, as well as any additional items. Here we can see the types of things that need to be estimated in terms of resources. That's human resources, tools, plant, equipment, raw materials, capital, services, and other. Under human resources, you'll need to consider what internal staff you'll need on your project, any contract staff you might need, temporary staff, perhaps consultants, even volunteers. Under tools, depending on your project, you may need things like testing equipment, compressors, drills, laptops, devices, or even software licenses. Under plant, you may need to rent a specific project office and therefore need office facilities, or maybe you need some warehousing or storage. Under equipment, you may need specific vehicles for your project, desks, printers, servers. If you're producing a particular product, you may have raw materials that are needed like concrete, fill, roofing, fencing on a renovation project, or perhaps on an IT project, something like circuit boards. In terms of capital, you'll need to consider funding sources such as loans, equity, venture capital. And under services, what different services your project's going to need. So consultancy, maintenance, data center services, maybe cleaning, catering, or even security. And then other resources. So think about the day-to-day of your project, and maybe you'll need paper, printers, books, insurance, maybe some training, or what other sorts of consumables. So consider all those different things, because the first step is to estimate those resources that you're going to need. Then we need to consider the time or the duration. So sometimes this is pretty straightforward based on those resources. So you might define that you need a specialist consultant for 10 days. However, your resource decisions can also be influenced by a number of things. So for example, whether or not you hire an external party versus using an internal company resource as part of your project. If you need an external party, you may need to go through a procurement process or recruitment process versus just transferring an internal staff into your project. It can also be influenced by things such as the organization's culture and processes, such as the time required to gain sign-off or approval, or even to recruit. So using those policies and procedures could make a difference to the time needed and your estimations. And lastly, cost. So there are some different categories of costs to consider. So again, thinking about the resources and the time you'll need them, you can categorize them as fixed direct costs. So these are direct costs to the project, and the cost is the same throughout each time period. For example, the same monthly cost. So if you're hiring a project manager permanently and they're a salaried employee, their payment will be the same every month, and that's a fixed direct cost to that project. Or if you've hired an office just for the project team, that monthly lease that's going to be the same rent each month would be a direct project cost. On the other hand, there's fixed indirect costs. So these are indirect to the project. Maybe the company itself pays for or has initiated these things. So for example, the whole company has an office. The project team is just in one part of the office. The maintenance on the whole lease of that facility is the same amount per month, but it's an indirect cost to the project. Next is variable direct costs. So again, a direct cost to the project, but the amount will vary month to month or week to week. So for example, consumables, the more you need, the more it costs in 1 month, maybe you need less the next month. This might also be the same for casual staff and other things that can vary in their need and amount from month to month. You may also then consider variable indirect costs. So again, these might be costs covered by the company as a whole, but that the project team may access. So for example, the casual administrative staff employed by the company, they might meet and greet your project management stakeholders, but they're not exactly a direct cost to the project. And this is the estimating sequence. So initially you would hopefully come up with a good work breakdown structure, WBS, and identify the work packages, the lower levels of activity required. You can then estimate what resources are required to complete the tasks within those work packages. You can estimate the duration that those resources are needed within the work package and estimate the cost of each unit of time the resource is required. And you might weave in a little bit of a contingency or backup plan in case you need the resource more or longer, or some sort of a variation to what you're thinking. Down at the bottom here, also we watch out for miscellaneous costs associated with the work package. So when you're devising those work packages and your work breakdown structure, you might consider what other kinds of costs could be involved. So from there you can estimate the total work package cost and then include any work package level contingencies as well, some backup plans or a little bit of buffering or extra money put aside just in case something unexpected occurs. You can view part 2 of this video to learn common estimation methods that will go through analogous, parametric, 3-point estimation, bottom-up, top-down and expert judgment.